Okay, just to give you a quick overview. So Ruth, who is the project lead and managing editor of the Royal Irish Academy, will provide an introduction to this webinar. Then we'll have presentations, first one from Journal.fi from Antti-Jussi Nygård and Sami Syrjämäki. And that will be followed by a presentation from Jan Willem Wijnen from Openjournals.nl. And I would like to thank our colleagues from Journal.fi and Openjournals.nl for participating in this webinar. Finally, there'll be a Q&A and Ruth will moderate that. Our aim was to have that closed to working groups, but we'll try and add, if there are any questions from non-working group members, to take a couple at the beginning and then close that session. Okay, so Ruth, over to you.
Hello, thank you all, and thank you for bearing with us with that issue with Zoom. When we were opening it up, it didn't open up properly, which is why there was a delay there when we got started. But I'm so delighted that we're going to have this session today, which is the first of our public webinars that we're going to be doing throughout the term of this project that is running this year and next year, culminating in November 2022. So what we would like to do with this project, which we received funding from NORF, from the National Open Research Forum, we're going to conduct a feasibility study into a national editorial management system and platform for books and journals. So if any of you out there wish to publish Diamond OA and would like to use an editorial management system, which would take you from peer review all the way to publication, we hope that by this time next year, late next year, that we'll have a feasibility study in completion, and perhaps some people that are ready to actually move on and build a platform and use it, which would then be a national resource, a piece of infrastructure to help those of us who would like to move most of our publishing away. We are working in this project with publishers, of course, but as it's a platform that readers will use, we would like to take their views into account. The authors who will publish with us will be consulted, and the people who fund all of this research are our stakeholders. And through this process, we want to understand for Ireland what our needs are, the needs of publishers, authors, funders, and readers, and move towards something that we think will be sustainable, because sustainability is always the question that arises as soon as something like this is mooted. How might it work in the long term? So that's an aspect of our project that we think is really important. So move on to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to run you through very briefly what we're going to do. Africa, if you just want to bring them all up, we're going to publish a feasibility report, as I mentioned. On Bloomsday, we're going to publish a snapshot, a digital directory of publishers, because we want to give a picture of the publishing landscape, and we will publish that on the Publish OA website, and you will be able to consult that for your own purposes as well, to have an understanding of the journals and books and other publishing that's happening in Ireland. And we will update that next year as we gather more information. We'll publish a landscape report of Irish publishing and of the requirements of publishers to transition to OA. And as part of our process, we will work with publishers. We will create a support program, and part of it is learning ourselves about open access for all of the publishers. I publish 6 journals here at the Academy, and books and databases and research projects. And this project is exciting for me because I know that it will allow me to upscale in the whole area of open access publishing, which is moving so fast. And we'll present a national set of open access publishing principles and standards for publishing. And we're building on the work that many other people have been involved in, many of whom are on the call today. Next slide, please. We have 18 partners, and within each of these, we are accessing an incredible amount of expertise. And if you could move on to the next slide, please. So today, one of the first steps that we needed to do was to look at the international landscape. And this webinar is going to talk about open access platforms that exist internationally, and to learn from them, because we do not wish to reinvent the wheel. And initially, we're going to hand over to a double act, Sami Syrjämäki, apologies, and Antti-Jussi Nygård initially, who are going to talk to us about their platform, which is the Finnish Scholarly Journals Online, to talk about how it came to be, what challenges they encountered, and how it runs now. So if I can move on to the next slide, please, and Afrik, if you want to spotlight our first speaker, which I think is Antti-Jussi.
No, sorry, I think it's me.
Sami, you're going first.
It's Sami.
Sami, apologies.
Syrjämäki. By the way, that's a great pronunciation. Thank you. I know it's very difficult. So, well, thank you for inviting me or us here. Very happy to tell you about Journal.fi. I will first say a couple of words about the organization behind this service. Antti-Jussi will be talking more about technicalities and the process of this Journal.fi, how it became to be alive. So next slide, please. Oh, thank you. This platform is maintained by Federation of Finnish Learned Societies. This organization has been actually established more than 100 years ago, 1899. So we are actually older than Finland as an independent state. And there is a law on Federation of Finnish Learned Societies, and you actually need to have a majority vote at the parliament to stop us going. So we are quite safe there that and can guarantee that this service will not be away from internet next year. So one more thing to mention about the background organization is that we have about 300 member societies, and there will be a slide, not the next one, but the following one, which will be very interesting in regard of our service and its importance in Finland. So next slide, please.
Actually, Sami, just to let you know, you should be able to put them on yourself now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I did manage. So the Federation does several things. This Journal.fi and is belonging to publishing service as well as IT services. So we have also edition.fi, which is maintained for open access books. What happens now? I didn't touch anything. Okay. So and we have an actual bookstore here. So we are also selling print books too, and logistic central and storage for learned publication, the printed ones. And we are taking care of exchange of scientific literature, which is based on UNESCO convention. And we do, of course, also policy work nationally and internationally, policy and open access publishing, for example. So the next slide before Antti-Jussi comes is I'll try to, from where? Really don't know why is this not moving. I'm sorry, it's not moving anywhere. Okay, now, did I do that? I don't know. Well, okay, this is quite interesting picture because the diagram, because it gives you a picture of the Finnish scholarly publishing landscape. So you can see learned societies play an exceptionally big role in Finland. All the peer-reviewed publications, the learned societies publish 70%. There is some research on this and comparative research between, for example, Spain and Norway. So we know that in Finland, this is really an exceptionally big amount that learned societies are taking care. In Finland, scholarly publishing, at least in the sense of peer-reviewed books or articles or journals, is not business at all. You cannot make money with scientific publications in Finland. So they are relying heavily on voluntary work. about 50% or so of the work done in journals is based on voluntary based work, and in learned societies it's about 70%. So I think this will give you a nice background, and Antti-Jussi will say more about the technical process, how Journal.fi was established and how it is going now, and maybe I'll be back for the last slide. We'll see if we got time. So Antti-Jussi.
Yeah, thanks. I was hoping to show my face, but the system says that the host has stopped my video. So if you can start that for me, that would be great. I think it's because I'm not co-host. I think.
Okay, we'll certainly try and work on that for you. And
okay, yeah, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I'll just start if you can get the video on. Fine. Okay. So I see that the slides are changing without me clicking them. Yeah, so about the Journal.fi project, basically how it started was already back in 2015. We had a joint project with the National Library of Finland, the Federation of Finnish Learned Societies and the National Library of Finland. We had a project called Kotilava, which is a Finnish word. It's actually a shortening of a longer project name, but you could translate it roughly to home stage. So it sounded quite good for this purpose. So it was basically a project that was aimed to help Finnish academic journals, small academic journals, make it more easier for them to flip into open access publishing. And it basically had two parts in it. There was the technical part, which I worked on, and then there was the part with money. So basically about creating a funding model for Finnish open access journals. Luckily, I didn't have to work with that one because that's really tricky, as you probably know. What I worked on was the technical part, and basically the idea there was to create a platform that we could use to cut down the cost of publishing. We had a budget, as you can see, roughly 100,000 euros. That was mainly for development work. The project lasted for 2 years, so the money really went for doing the technical development. We didn't start from scratch. We actually already had at the Federation an older platform for journals that was based on an older version of Open Journal Systems, Open Journal Systems 2. This is something that was launched in 2006. And we had something roughly like 20 to 30 journals. It's a rough number because we had a lot of cases where a journal had started to use the system, and then we actually didn't know what their status was. Did they still use it, or did they just publish in print, or what's the situation? And the journals were not too happy with the platform, especially that they show that it's not up to the international standard that they wanted to meet with their journals. So we started to work on that in the project, and we had basically 4 areas of development that you can see here. This is actually a slide back from 2015 or 16 or something like that. So a really old slide. And we had like 4 areas of development. I think that branding is really important when you create a platform like this. The old platform we had no brand at all. Technical infrastructure was really important. And this is not only about getting an agreement with Crossref. This was also a lot about the situation that a lot of the technical things did not work back in 2015 and 16. So we participated a lot in the development of ORCID plugins, DOHA plugins, and so on. And then maintenance was an important part. So we wanted to have like freedom agreements with the journals, and also a lot of support documentation for running the platform. I think that that's like increasingly important now that we have more journals, that's in a good place. And then system development, and here the biggest thing was that we decided to upgrade to OJS3. I think we were among the first larger platforms, and by large I mean more than 10 journals that upgraded to OJS3, and you could really see it back in 2016. So we had a lot of problems there because it was a really early version of OJS3 that we started to use. So basically, in late 2016, we had like a test upgrade of our existing OJS2 service, and we arranged workshops for the journals so that they could start testing the platform. And we launched in 2017, as you can see there. Most of our journals are really small, and most of them come from member-learned societies. So the usual situation is that there's a member society and it has one journal and it's on our platform. But we are not officially an national platform. We have a lot of journals in the Finnish context, but there's no like official status regarding that. As I already mentioned, we are based on Open Journal Systems 3, and this is basically a platform that you can use both for the editorial workflow, I mean accepting manuscripts, doing peer review and so on, but also for the publishing. And with these kind of platforms, it's important to remember that it's not only about publishing and making the article visible on a web page. Big part of it is also how a system like Open Journal Systems is connected to other services. So when you publish something in our service, it's instantly moved into other services, the metadata, I mean. And we host our own server. So we have a lot of other similar kind of services for our learned societies. So we have the capability of running the actual server. Yeah. And now about the quantity of the journals in our platform. As you can see, we've had like a steady growth since 2017. I always estimate, like in these kind of slides, I always estimate what I think is the amount of next year's April, and I always estimate it too low. So April 23, I estimated that it would be 10 journals less, but we are still having like steady growth there. And we haven't actually advertised our platform a lot, so that's why I wrote there that it's been like natural growth in a way. So clearly there was a need for a platform like this. So just by creating it, we got a lot of journals, and we still get a lot of journals joining our platform. And roughly, as you can see there, we have around 120 Diamond OA journals. And around 20 of the journals have a 1 year or smaller embargo. And I don't think that we have a single journal using APCs, article processing charges. That's really actually tells a lot about the Finnish context of open access publishing. Here's about the criteria of acceptance, how we accept new journals to our platform. Important part is that all the journals have to be Finnish, and we determine being Finnish by finding out if there's a official organization registered in Finland behind the journal. So we've had a few border cases and turned them down. So and I think this has been quite a good policy. And we basically have two policies for publishers. We have a more open policy for our member societies, the learned societies, and we also accept other publishers to join our platform. For the other publishers, we demand them to be immediately open. So basically no embargo is allowed. For our member societies, as you can see, we allow 1 year embargo. And I think that part of the reason why we are so popular is, of course, the cost. So the service is free for our member societies, to publish their journals in our service, and also for the other publishers, it's a really small price, about 200 euros per year. There's like additional things that they can buy as well, but that's like the basic cost for them. And this is what we basically offer. So what we don't offer is all kinds of editorial services. So we don't offer copy editing, we don't offer layout services or anything like that. We offer basically the technical platform. We offer that we take care of the platform, we upgrade it, we do some coding services in the case that we see that they will benefit all of the journals on our platform. We of course have a ticket service for technical support, and then what is important, I think, is that for new editors and editorial boards, we have a OJS workshop that we run. So basically a 2-hour workshop on the basics of using OJS. And then we have a lot of written guides on different kind of policies using, for example, DOIs, ORCIDs, Creative Commons licenses, and so on. Yeah, I've written that we answer a lot of online technical questions, and our support is technical support. But the reality is that the journals actually ask a lot of questions about policies. What license should I use? What does this license mean? What kind of services should I join, and so on. So we don't officially offer that service, but we do answer those kind of questions as well, because in a lot of cases the journals really don't have anywhere else to look for the answers. We have one regular employee, one full-time employee, that's me basically, and then we have 3 employees at the Federation who also do a lot of other things besides supporting the platform. And the budget of the platform, it's part of our IT department at the Federation of Finnish Learned Societies. So it's basically my wage and the cost of running the servers. That's the cost of the platform, like roughly. And I want to stress that what is important besides supporting your own platform, your own service, is also that when you start to use some open source software like OJS, it's really important to be part of that community and contribute to that community as well. So we contribute a lot to OJS coding at the moment, and I see it like a long-term support of the system, not just like giving for public knowledge project like help, but also we are helping ourselves to make sure that the software thrives. This is an old picture I made. This was originally our goal. How an article in our service will be connected to other services, and this has become pretty much the reality. Our long-term preservation service at the National Library, there's still some open questions there, but basically we are connected to a lot of the key indexes that are important in open access publishing. And what is also important is that a platform like OJS3 is really easy to connect to your national services. There is an OIA endpoint inbuilt in OJS3 that we use to push, for example, data to Finnish national article databases and similar databases in Finland. Okay, Sami, do you want to say a word about the survey we made? This is the last slide that we have.
Yeah, quick word. We did research on the users of this service about in which role they arrive there. And it just might be interesting to know that it was students that were the biggest group identified there. Researchers, of course, but then also private, as people came as private citizens or other kind of expert teachers use that also, this service. So not much else to say. I guess these slides will be saved so anybody can take a look. And there's actually an article published this. I will look and post a link to the chat, so where you find the detailed information on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sami, and thank you, Antti-Jussi. It's really interesting, and it's interesting to hear there that you're talking about people looking for support, editors who are working away on their own, looking to get questions answered, and that's an element of what you are finding, that you need to provide support for that, because that's coming through from our community, that people are saying not only would they like the technical platform, but they'd actually like to feel part of a network so that they can keep abreast of everything. And also that complex slide where you're talking about all the ways in which you can push information out and incorporate elements like ORCID and DOI minting potentially, is all things that we're hearing from the community that they would like if this platform could handle that for them, so that they don't need to know everything that's required, but that the platform will keep abreast of that. And that's really interesting. And I'm sure we'll come back to that in the questions. But now we're going to move to the Netherlands and to Openjournals.nl. And I'm going to hand over to Jan Willem Wijnen. And if you take it away there, the next 15 minutes or so, and then we will come to questions at the end.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak about Open Journals. Open Journals is the Dutch Diamond Open Access platform for scholarly journals. It got launched about 2 years ago. It looks a bit like the Finnish platform, but we have a shorter history. We should go back. Yeah. At the moment, we host 26 scientific journals, and we're adding about 1 new journal every month. And most of the journals that you can find on our platform are in the humanities, social sciences, but we see a more diverse group of disciplines entering the platform as well. So we even publish some medical or educational sciences journals. The platform is a service, and this service can be provided to organizations such as university presses, but also professional organizations, health organizations, and even independent editorial boards. Sometimes there's just a group of scientists, an informal network. They run a journal. There is not a big organization behind it, but they still want to publish the journal, and we allow that. So just a little bit on the background, how did all of this started? Well, there was a bunch of journals hosted at the University of Utrecht, and the University of Utrecht couldn't do that anymore, so they had to look for a different solution. And so this group of open access advocates came up with a project proposal and submitted it to the Dutch Research Council. And the project proposal was basically to develop a diamond open access platform for journals in the humanities and social sciences, because it's more difficult to publish open access there. The idea was that the platform is an infrastructure and that the journals remain independent. And the development of a diamond open access platform for journals was really part of a larger discussion that's going on in the Netherlands and probably in Ireland and Finland as well, about how to shape open science. So the seed funding for this journal platform was provided by the Research Council, but it was also based on a business model that said that the seeding funding covered about 70% of the expenses, and that journals and universities would have to chip in as well. So that was the initial model. The way it's organized now is that we are a small project team, a project manager, functional support, communication, about 1.3 FTEs. And we also make use of, there you go, yeah, make use of the IT department of the Royal Academy of Sciences in the Netherlands. So those would be the hardcore coders. The project team is managed by a steering committee, and we report to this Research Council. And at the moment, the project team is based at one of the research institutes in the Netherlands, the Huygens Institute, which is an institute for history. At the moment, we are moving to the next phase. which is a development phase, and part of that is going to be that we're moving to a management team instead of a project team. And we are working on building a supervisory board, and those supervisory board would consist of representatives of the large stakeholders in the Netherlands. So that would be universities, libraries, research funders, and the Academy of Sciences. And next to that, we are also organizing a user board to get more feedback from journals about, how we should improve. Still, part of this organization governance is also hampered by the fact that there is an ongoing discussion about, who is really the owner of open journals, or who should be the owner, because it's a project now, but it doesn't have a specific permanent basis yet. And in general, there's a lot of discussion about the future. How should it be funded, the governance, etc. And I guess that's all part of a challenge of moving a project to a steady phase. The standards that we are apply is that we want the journals on open journals to be fully scientific. That means they should either be registered at the directory of open access journals or work towards registration. The DOAJ, they have a set of rules, like, for example, the information available on the journal homepage, the way the editorial board should function. Next to that, we want our journals to be diamond open access, so no cost for authors or readers. And we have agreements in place with all these journals that do specify things like what is open access to us, what licenses can you choose, etc. We also advise on other services. So we want our journals to be connected as much as possible to the larger international infrastructure of scientific journals. And we are also eager to assist journals in raising the standards or modernize journals. So we want to provide advice as well. So the business model, as I said, at the moment, we are mainly financed by the Dutch Research Council, which covers about 60% of our cost. We are also sponsored by some of the Dutch universities that have specific funding for open access infrastructure. And we also ask for a financial contribution from the journals. And at the moment, that is 3,000 euros per year, which is on one hand hefty, but on the other hand, it also shows that there is an organization behind the journal. And so far, it has not really proven to be a problem. We are working on ways on reducing that amount. So we are now also building or trying to develop a sustainable model for this platform. We have a group that contains representatives of all the main stakeholders. They have expressed that it is their joint obligation to keep this journal platform alive, and we're working on that a model in which all of these organizations would chip in. So we think the cost for running open journals is so 1.5 to 2 FTEs plus IT support. So roughly it's about 200,000 euros a year. A lot of that is overhead. And the business model to journals is that they have to pay a fee for us, but there are additional copy editing, typesetting costs, which we don't cover. Because we use the same platform as the Finnish do, so it's OJS software developed by the PKP organization. It's open source software. It's easy to maintain with our local team. This software is used by over 30,000 journals now, so that also means that there is a lot of knowledge in the world about how to use this software. And the software really contains two parts. One is to manage the editorial workflow, so the entire peer review process of papers. And the second part is publication of papers. And as I said, we don't provide any editorial services such as copy editing or typesetting. There were questions about engagement. What do we do in terms of engagement? Well, we have a website. We have a website that is specifically designed to also so we're able to post news items, newsletters. We post in social media. We do actively reach out to new journals and tell them about open journals and how they could use the platform. We interact with the main stakeholders in organized meetings. We have users days in which editors of journals can come up and either get technical advice or advice about, how do I create more publicity for my journal. There are national open science events where we participate. And in the Netherlands, there is this a national plan for open science. And within that plan, open journals does have a prominent position. So what is the future? So as I said, we are in the second stage of development. We have funding for the next 5 years. And basically our focus is going to be hosting more journals. We expect to host 80 journals by 2027. More functionality, so either existing functionality in the platform or participate in development projects. More services, because indeed editorial boards very often say, we need more support than just hosting of a journal. So we are keen to expand those services that we offer. More collaboration. We see opportunities for journals to work with each other, maybe by sharing editorial services, but also internationally. We have a Finnish journal platform, we have a Danish, Swedish, French journal platforms. There are quite a few national platforms, and let's learn from each other. And we also want to do more outreach to the wider audience, because one aim of open science is to make it easier for also non-scientists to get in touch with scientific information, and we want to encourage that. Then finally, some lessons learned. I think it has turned out to be very positive that we work with this OJS software developed by PKP. It's good to work in a large community. There is an active forum where you can ask questions. It's all well documented, so we're pretty happy with that. And then the second point is manage expectations of editors and journals. There are editors or journals that are used to very good services from commercial publishers, for example. Sometimes it's hard to live up to those expectations. I think it's also important to very clearly state, well, this is part of the service that we can provide. For other services, you need to find a different solution. Overall, we find that editors and journals really need to be guided about, how to run a journal on a open access platform such as Open Journals. And the third point is that, it's important to work on a long-term plan. It's fairly easy to start a new project like this, but where eventually, how do you want to organize this in the long term? Should it be part of a library? Should it be part of a national organization? Who should finance it? It turns out to be a difficult discussion, as I know is the case in a lot of countries, but of course it's very important that you have this long-term plan also to convince journals to participate in these initiatives. And that brings me to the end of this presentation. So have a look at Openjournals.nl, and if you have questions, let me know. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jan. That's really interesting. So if anyone has a question, can you put it in the Q&A? And I actually think I can ask you to unmute yourself. So if you'd like to ask it directly, you can. Our intention with this was to move into lots of technical questions that our working group will have for the two of them or the three of them. So if you are not on our working group and you want to ask a question now, just put it in the chat and I'll ask it for you. And I just had a question there for you, Jan, just sparked by that have a long-term plan and that you were a project initially and that you've moved into long-term planning and the long-term sustainability of it. And that is a really key question for us, and it can be a limiting factor because you can feel like if you don't have a long-term plan, you can't set this up. But so is it inevitable that you're going to set it up as a project and just have the faith that you will develop this long-term plan and that you can't really organize everything at the early stages, that you need to set up a project with a number of journals, and in our case, books initially, and then work towards a longer phased plan. Is that what you would recommend?
Yes, I think that would be the right approach to do that. I think there is a lot to learn when you set up a new platform. There's a lot of technical stuff, but also for journals to get familiar with. But I do also think that it is important that at an early stage you do get these important stakeholders together and sort of agree that, okay, we're not really sure how we're going to organize this in the future, but let's agree that we all think that this is important. This is part of a national infrastructure that should exist. And, let's be part of this project, because I think eventually it is clear that the way it's organized and the way it's funded, it must come from the scientists or the scientific information specialist, and how to do that exactly. That's a difficult discussion, but having them on board from the start, I think, is a good move.
Yeah. Okay, and then I just wanted to bring in Antti-Jussi there. You were talking about branding. Is that branding of the platform itself, or giving the opportunity to each of the journals to have their own branding?
I guess both. I think it was important that we realized that we need a good address, we need a good name for the platform, something that we've learned that we got to talk a lot about with foreign people. So it was important that it works in several languages, and it's easy to make a logo with, and so on. Also, in the journal branding, it is important for journals that they are not forced to use like a single template of a journal layout. In our case, we allow them to create their own themes for the system, for their own journal. But basically, we maintain our own OJS-free theme plugin, and the journals can then modify like small things in the theme, like the header image and the colors and so on. This is something that's really easy to maintain when you do upgrades from version to version, and you have over 100 journals. If every journal would have their own theme plugin, if somebody has used WordPress, they know what I mean, and you get to upgrade, then it's really complicated usually. But yeah, I think that it's been really important for, especially because we started, although we had journals when we started, we were quite unknown, really small. So I think it contributed a lot that we had a clear brand. We basically had a graphical designer hired to do the basic layout and the logos and the colors and everything for our site. And I think it was really worth the sum that it cost us, that we spent that money.
Yeah, and I think we're hearing that from the readers and the users and the authors, that they're going to want this really nice experience, and for people to be able to, then for publishers to be able to maintain their own look and feel and their brand, and how they might be able to work on that. So we are going to move into the general questions, but I see one, the questions from the working group, but actually I see one from Nigel Monaghan there, just asking about your journals, both of you. How many of you of the journals are still in print, or are they migrating to online only, or is it just a mixture? I know in our case, we're fully digital and we publish articles as they arrive, but we have maintained the print for all our journals so far.
I don't know exactly if we count all the journals in Finland, how they are doing, but I do have the budget figures from the journals that are being published by our member societies, which do make up an extensive part of the journals in Finland. So about a little bit half of them, or a little bit over half, do have a budget for print and post. So judging by that, it seems that over half of them still are producing the journal also in print format.
Yeah.
But I'm not totally sure the figures, but about half, I would guess, are still. And well, a small part of those are only in print, but yeah.
Okay, useful. And Jan, how about yourselves?
Yeah, I know there's a couple of journals that have a print issues as well, and that is a source of income to them, but it would really be, I think, a minority. And I think in general, yeah, journals have to think about, okay, if we lose this income from print issues, and if we want to move to open access, how do we financially organize that? But maybe also a bigger issue, there are journals that publish strictly scientific work, but they also do some society news or interviews or agenda and things like this. And those are typically elements that maybe you don't need to have in print anymore. That's information you would find on a website. So I think the transition to something like open journals is also a moment for journals to just in general think, okay, what do we want to communicate and how do we want to communicate? It's not only about taking an existing journal and putting it online. It is really about 21st century communication of science. How do you do that?
Yeah, which is a challenge. So we're going to ask a few technical questions now, and Eve Padden and Niamh Brennan have put up a few questions, but Niamh, I think I will ask you to ask it yourself. I've allowed you to talk, so I think you can unmute yourself there and ask it yourself.
Well, thanks very much. That's great. Sorry for my voice. I have a horrible flu at the moment. So I've got a few questions. I hope you don't mind this. The first thing I think that's on the minds of our technical working group is, and this is a question for both Finland and the Netherlands. Did you consider any other technical solutions besides Open Journal System? We have to say we love Open Journal System, but we just wonder, what was your process? Did you have a technical specification that you needed to meet? And as part of the process, did you have to go through a tendering process for your platform solution? Or did you have the freedom, given the project status of the Netherlands and the Learned Society status of Finland, maybe you didn't need to follow those strictures? So loads of questions.
Jan, do you want to take it first there? And then we come on.
Yes, okay. Well, the honest answer is that I'm not really sure why we chose for OJS, because I'm not the first project manager, so I was not involved. I do know that there was indeed a bunch of journals that was looking for a new home, and they were used to OJS 2. So I'm assuming that was part of the decision. We did not have a tendering process. I don't think that there was a very detailed list of requirements. So I think just because there was these OJS 2 journals, we moved to OJS 3. I don't think that other systems were considered.
That makes complete sense. You can absolutely see how that could have happened. So we just needed to ask that question. Thanks a million. And you see, I suppose maybe we should go over to Jan Willem just to see what the Netherlands did. I've got a follow-up question, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Yeah, I think it was other way around. So in the case of Journal.fi, the project started already back in 2015. So there weren't actually that many alternatives available then. Chainway came a bit later, and also a lot of the other alternatives that are available now did not exist back then. And in our case, like I said, we already had the OJS 2 platform available, and that of course contributed to our choice of going with OJS. And OJS 3 was just released during the project, and it looked really promising. So that probably contributed as well. We didn't have like an official tendering process or anything like that. So I basically, as a project worker, made suggestions to our organization, a few employees there, and that's the way how it was dealt.
Okay, thanks a million. That obviously made it much easier for journals to migrate because most of them were on some version of OJS already, right?
Yeah, especially with OJS2, there was actually a plugin that made it really easy. We do migrate a lot of journals still, like all the time, coming from different kind of systems. For example, there was a journal service from the National Library that was stopped working like in December. So there's been a constant flow of new journals from that service. I'm going to paste in the chat. We actually have our own converter script that I've written for OJS that we use for migrating data from other services. It's a solution that works pretty much with anything because it uses a Excel sheet for importing data. So it converts the Excel sheet into XML that OJS3 can read. So I've basically imported something like, I don't know, 60 journal archives using that during the years.
That's brilliant. We might come back to you to ask. I want to let some other people come in. I have loads of other questions, but maybe we'll follow up with you afterwards. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really useful. So we might move over to finance. We can come back to some more technical questions, but there are loads of questions here around €3,000. Jan, how do the small institutions deal with that? Now, from my own perspective, we are paying, we're paying about 1,700 or so to Project Muse for hosting, and then we have Manuscript Manager, and we're paying some costs associated with that. But we do receive public funding. What in the case of people who have no funding, and how did you arrive at your €3,000 per annum?
The 3,000 was also decided before my time, but I think the thinking was really that, those are actually costs, so including the overhead. It is, for some organizations, it's a challenge, but there are professional societies, they have that income or they have the ability to apply for funding. There are a couple of universities that will also just sponsor those journals. So those universities have decided that, yeah, this is part of what should be funded through their funds. And we're actually even, we're telling journals very often, if they don't belong to a specific organization, that it might be useful to try to link up with either a department or some sort of an organization, because that could be a way to find the funding for this solution. There is an ongoing discussion about, is that 3,000, is there a way that we can reduce it? Also, at the moment, we don't really distinguish between new journals or existing journals. Maybe it would be fair if there is a distinction there, or if there are specific setup costs and maintenance costs. So we're also looking at the specifics of that. But I think the idea that journals should somehow financially contribute to this organization is generally accepted.
Yeah. And Sami and Antti-Jussi, so €200, or if you're a member, you get it for free. And that's just that you're just absorbing the costs of hosting this platform within the organization, within the federation. Is that correct? And have you ever done any work on how much you think it really costs for you to provide this service?
Well, this is funded by government mainly. We do have our own income slightly. This my first or second slide explains about our funding. Well, the budget for us running this service is around 150. No, less. How much did I mention? I mentioned that the Antti-Jussi yesterday. Well, it's close to 150,000, I think.
And that's complete, is it, including overhead and any resources, HR support, IT support? It includes everything, you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. It's not more, not much more. Maybe less. I think.
It's a bit hard to calculate because, like I said, we have 3 employees who work on the platform and do a lot of other things. So what we would need to give you like a really clear number, we would need that those employees would basically start writing down exact hours, how much they work on the platform. So we've actually never done that we ask them to do that. So it's really hard. It's easy to check what my wage is. Not going to say it here, but anyway, that's easy to say. And we can quite easily estimate how much it takes to run a server within our own space. So those numbers are clear, but it's the 3 employees that work part-time. That's the hard part to estimate.
Sure, but you are, I mean, it's not tens of people that's needed to run this service. It is somewhere around 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you're both saying. I mean, you're both not.
I think I have to say for the Dutch model, the advantage that they really have is when the service is getting bigger and they get more journals, they get like a clear addition to the amount of money that they can use on the service. In our case, the amount of money stays the same. So we get the same money when we have 30 journals, 50 journals, 80 journals, 100 journals, and now 140 journals. So what if we've seen it's really difficult then to upgrade to 2 full-time positions from the one-time position. I think for the Dutch, it's probably a bit easier because you actually see an increase in the income all the time. That's not happening. We have so little, so few outside federation publishers that really doesn't make much difference in our case.
So in an ideal world, because similarly we would, if we have a publicly funded organization running something, it's very difficult for us to hire an extra person. So if we were to set it up with 30 journals and 50 books, and then we really wanted to scale it, if we hadn't anticipated it in advance and articulated that, it would be difficult then to recruit and to make the argument if it was a fully funded model from the government. So in an ideal world, what roles would you have that you don't have now? So you now have the technical support, and Jan, in your case, you do communication, you provide some publisher support. You know, what hires would you wish you'd built into your financial models? And I'm going to have a look through the chat if there's anything somebody wants asked, maybe repost it if I've missed it for you.
Well, I could answer that. I watched with envy when Jan Willem was talking about the users day and so on. So what we really lack at the moment is that we don't have that clear distinction between managerial people of the platform and technical people of the platform, which would really be an advantage, that somebody concentrates on the technical side, somebody concentrates on the managerial side. So I'm basically doing a lot of the both of those things at the moment. And it's like, I'm not saying that it's extremely problematic. At the same time, I know what happens on both sides really well. But if there would be a possibility to get more resources, I think that would be like a clear way of dividing the work, so that somebody would concentrate on the managerial side and somebody on the development and maintaining and upgrading and making the service better.
Yeah, great. And Jan, how about you? Is there anything you wish you had?
No, I think overall we're quite happy, because I think indeed having a platform like us, I think it's good to try to move a bit beyond just being a platform. So there's always a discussion about, are we a service, or are we a publisher, or are we a publishing service? And I think it should be somewhere in between, because indeed journals do need promotion, they do need advice, they do need to be guided about, this works for them, this didn't work there. And I think personally, I'm quite happy that we are in this position where we could say, okay, we're not going to be a publisher, but we're also going to be more than just a hosting organization. We want to be part of the academic community and help with communicating science. And that is more than just hosting.
Yeah, and that leads on to a question that is in here in the chat, and anybody who needs to leave, feel free to go. But it's about training, asking about, do you provide training for editors and authors when they join, but also then as a new organization, persuading people to move and to believe that they will be well supported. Do you run training for them when you onboard a journal?
Yes, we do. So we provide a workshop on how to use the website. We also operate as a help desk, so editors can always get in touch with me or with us. I think overall, editors are doing really well. It's not like we have journals where they have run into big trouble. And again, I think it's a bit similar like what I mentioned earlier. You see a transition at journals where more and more journals, there are young people now working at those journals. They're kind of comfortable with using web-based applications. They're comfortable with different file formats and stuff like that. And it can also be a reason for a journal to say, okay, we're going to be open access online. We need different people in the team than, just the senior people.
Yeah.
And so that works well.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and Sami and Antti-Jussi, do you?
Yes, actually, it's obligatory to take part to a training before you start publishing on our website. So that is one thing there.
Yeah.
Did you have some kind of other activities in many events? We have sort of also a little bit advertising this platform and talking about possibilities. Mainly, we have been concentrating during the last years to the public to tell them that this exists. Since Finland is not that big country and we don't have that many journals, as you probably do have in Ireland or in Netherlands, so they actually do know us quite well. So we are trying to do some PR work for the public to know this, that, hey, come and you can read here.
Great. Okay. Lucy, do you have any questions? Did I miss anything that you wanted to ask? Lucy Hogan's the project manager for this project, and we plan to organize webinars on each of the platforms. We're doing an evaluation at the moment of our technical specs of what we might need, and then we're going to do some demonstrations which will also be public of each of the platforms like OJS and Janeway, so that people can get a sense of what's there, so then they can work out what they might like to see, like those questions about support and training, ORCID authentication, peer review management systems. All of those kinds of things are very difficult to imagine if you've never worked on one yourself. So that's why we're going to run these webinars as a follow-up to this. But if there are no more questions.
Nope.
Lucy, do you have any there?
No, I just want to say thanks very much for your patience during this webinar. We had a few technical issues, but the presentations were great. They're really informative, and thank you for providing exactly what we asked, which is very, very helpful.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect. Thank you to all three of you, and all of what you've talked about will be stitched into our own thinking over the next year and a half, and we will keep in touch with you. And anyone who is attending who'd like to keep in touch with us, if you go to publishoa.ie, there's brief details there. And if you get in touch with us, we will make sure that you'll know about any of the rest of our events. And keep an eye out for the 16th of June for Bloomsday for our Directory of Irish Publishers, which we will be publishing. Thank you all very much, and goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.